to the Breeze, we were having a good time in the commercial break talking about the National League. And some of us feel that it's the inferior division. Probably those of us who are American League Central fans with the Cleveland Indians. But regardless, we are going to start with the National League and the National League East, I believe, right, Jeff?
Correct. The National League East. There's 5 teams, if you guys don't know the National League East. The Washington Nationals, Florida Marlins, Atlanta Braves, Philadelphia Phillies, and
the New York
Metropolitans. The hot topic, the New York Mets. I'll get to them later, though. Right now, let's talk about the Washington Nationals. You know that they hired an ex-CIA cop?
As a player or coach?
As a coacher. They're on staff to watch...
special assistant?
To watch Elijah Dukes and Lasting Miller. So it's going to be an interesting season. This team can bat. They're really good at batting, but they have 0 pitching. I mean, Matt Chico is the returning starter here. He's got 7 wins. So I believe they invited 30 to 35 pitchers to spring training, and good luck with that. Yeah. They can bat, though, so they make games interesting. Florida Marlins. They're going to be going to a new stadium in a couple years, so that's basically the only thing interesting going on with this team. They have no expectations, 0. I mean, they have Luis Gonzalez, who's age 41, and he's got more major league innings than all of the other players combined on the team.
What was that?
Well, I feel for this team because they play hard. They're kind of like the Minnesota Twins, I believe, of the NL East. They don't win like the Twins do, but they play hard. Their payroll's $10 million, and they try. They got Gonzo going to be playing probably left field this year at age 41. Did I mention he's 41 years old, by the way?
You did?
Yeah.
How old is Luis Gonzalez again?
Age 41.
Oh, that's right.
So, you got Hanley Ramirez, who's 24, so there's some bright spots. Dan Uggla. Pitching, I got no idea who's pitching for this team. They traded 26 players to get Dontrelle Willis, or give away Dontrelle Willis. Right. But, it really comes down to 3 teams in the National League East. The Philadelphia Phillies, and the Atlanta Braves and Mets. Phillies going to bat with Utley, Rollins, and Ryan Howard. Big question mark with them is Brad Lidge is going to be closing games for him.
Head case.
And good luck with that, with the shoulder. I got the Mets in 2nd place. And the Mets got Johan Santana and nobody else pitching. Okay? So, where's the pitching going to come from? Pedro? No. He's down at cockfights down in Central America.
And we don't condone that here on the Breeze.
We do not. We do not. Sorry. I have the Atlanta Braves coming back to the top of the National League East. I like their batting of Mark Teixeira, Brian McCann, Jeff Francoeur, and Chipper Jones.
Interesting. All right. Well, that's an interesting take on the National League East. We're going to move a little bit west to the National League Central. And I will be talking about, start off with the Pittsburgh Pirates. And the loss of Josh Fogg, who was their ace, will now be slating Ian Snell as their opening day pitcher. Really only bright spots on this team are the Canadian crusher, Jason Bay, as well as an all-star third baseman in Freddie Sanchez. St. Louis Cardinals, I'm glad to say, are a team in disarray this year. Tony La Russa had as much trouble with Scott Rolen as he did trying to recite the alphabet when he did his DUI test. Troy Gloss will now be the third baseman. He will add some pop to the lineup, but Albert Pujols is really the only name on this team anymore. I think you will see a decline in his numbers, though I think he's one of the best players in the league. I think you're going to see a decline in his numbers because he does not have Jim Edmonds or, at a good time, Scott Rolen to protect him in that lineup. Now, Houston, they're a different issue. For most teams, it's quality you're looking for. Houston, they just went out and went for quantity. They made a lot of offseason pickups this year. And some of the moves that will go unnoticed, they pick up pitcher Sean Chacon and Jose Valverde, who pitched very well for the Diamondbacks in the playoffs in 07. Playoffs. Letting go of Morgan Ensberg, though, it might be some thought as a difficult, a tough move for them, but you pick up an all-star Miguel Tejada. He's going to shore up the middle of that defense and also hit for you behind the plate. But what bothers me, though, is age is really becoming an issue with Miguel Tejada. He had the big streak going, the longest streak in the major leagues for consecutive games played, but last year he missed 30 games after he broke his streak, and, age is becoming a problem. I had to miss 30 games if I was playing in Baltimore last year also. I tried to miss all 162 if I could. For the first time, he dipped below 160 hits in 10 years. So don't know if that was a big, a good move for them, but they made a lot of moves in Houston. If I wasn't a Cubs fan, I would be a Milwaukee Brewers fan. I do like the Brew Crew. I like the stadium. I like the way things are set up there. But one thing I really like about them is they're a young, fun, and exciting team. They're a team that are not corrupted by steroids. You have Fielder, who is now going to be a vegetarian, but I still think he can put out 50 home runs and 125 ribs. Ryan Braun, the Hebrew Hammer, I think he's a great spot protecting him in that lineup. Ricky Weeks and Tony Gwynn Jr. They're a young, fun, good lineup. You add a veteran and Mike Cameron in the outfield. I think that's going to be a fun clubhouse for them. And finally, I get to mention my favorite team, the Chicago Cubs. I'm going to try to be objective here. Not a lot of off-season moves. You pick up John Lieber, who might be a bullpen guy for you. You sign Fukudome, who's definitely going to shake up the lineup. You're going to have to move Derek Jeter around, though. Or Derek Jeter. Wish he was on the Cubs. Derek Lee might be hitting the 2 spot and the 5 spot. I think he's a 3-hitter, but with Fukudome, he's just a stud. And Uncle Lou's going to have his fun dealing with Zambrano. Hopefully he can finally get that Cy Young he was hoping for. Really the answer is, Matt Burton, not the answer. The answer is, will the pitching staff hold up? So we'll see. We'll move on a little bit further west now to the National League West.
The National West, I actually think, is the most competitive division top to bottom in the league. You really have 4 teams I think are going to finish over 500. You have one that actually possibly could have more than 100 losses. Let's kind of go more in depth with them. The Dodgers, I think the biggest move that they did was not necessarily players, but actually bringing in Joe Torre. There was a lot of talk last season about the conflict between the veterans and the rookies, and I think Joe Torre, if he can manage the egos that he did in New York, he can definitely manage the egos in L.A. And that's why I think he's kind of the biggest acquisition that they made. You have a good balance of younger players, the Matt Kemps, the Russell Martins of the world, and also you also go in free agency, you get Andrew Jones. I think that's going to provide a lot more pop. And now Jeff Kent can kind of be a better number 3, I think.
He's still in the league?
Yes, still in the league.
I think he's 42.
And also Rafael Furcal. He's in a walk year, so I look for him to have a really big season. Pitching, they're deep starting rotation. You have Brad Penny, Derek Lowe, Jason Schmidt, if he can stay healthy. I know Esteban Loaiza, Chad Billingsley. And then we go to Arizona Diamondbacks, who in the offseason make a huge trade and get Dan Herron. Obviously, they give up a lot of young talent, but what they get with Dan Herron is a bona fide number 1 to go with Brandon Webb. I mean, that's one heck of a staff, especially if you go to a short series in the playoff. I mean, I'm going to give them the heads up on that one. But and also you're looking to see if Randy Johnson's going to fill that number 3 hole. And even if he doesn't, if he isn't rejuvenated, you have Doug Davis, who's a very viable 3, I would say. Offensively, this team did struggle, though, and I will say that. But it was a lot of young talent last year, and that team has one more year to kind of prove themselves in the NFL Major League level, and I really do see them kind of being at the top ring there. The Rockies got hot last year, especially in September. They won 20 in a row. I really don't see the Rockies repeating even close to what they did last season.
No World Series?
No World Series, not even in the playoffs.
Signed a lot of the same guys.
Exactly. Offensively, that team has a lot of power, but they have no pitching, especially in the Rocky Mountain air. The Padres, you know, they went out and offensively they got Jim Edmonds. They went out and got
Got boy Mark Pryor.
Mark Pryor as well, Tadahito Iguchi, but I really just don't think they bolstered up that offense enough. Mark Pryor can get on the field. You know, he is a Cali boy that might be able to help them. They really do have a good pitching rotation, and then the Giants post-Bonds era, it's kind of what's left. Really probably not much. Benji Molina is going to be your cleanup. Not very good.
No.
It's going to be an ugly year for those Giants.
The pitching in this division is unbelievable.
Right.
I mean, all teams, the rotations are just tremendous.
Well, that's the National League preview for you. I hope that helped you along your way. When we come back, we're going to do a new game show called Same Face, New Place. Talk about it in a minute.